So thank you so much for coming in with your wife. It sounds like things have been really stressful for you both since the baby was born.
Yeah, I'm really glad we're here. It feels like it's a time to get a professional opinion on what's going on. I'm really worried about how Jada's been feeling.
So I've got to hear a little bit about what's been going on, and I have some initial ideas, but why don't you let me know what you've been seeing and what you've been worried about?
She doesn't seem herself. She used to be so confident. I know a lot of it must be related to not getting enough sleep. I try to tell her to rest, but she insists on getting up every time he wakes. And it's just really hard. It seems like she sleeps so lightly. She hears every little sound that he makes while I'm still sleeping. Mm-hmm. Then sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and the baby's still sleeping, but she's on the computer looking things up. And I can't persuade her to come back to bed, and she's worried she won't be able to fall back asleep. Mm-hmm. She's always pumping or washing things, even when I tell her they're already clean. She cries sometimes and says we made a mistake wanting to have a baby, which really isn't like her. She was so excited to plan this pregnancy. She just seems scared of everything, and she won't walk down the stairs with the baby in her arms, and she keeps asking me to change the baby and doesn't trust herself, but I tell her that it just doesn't make any sense. I feel like something must be wrong, and she's feeling this way. I'm really worried about her. So I get to the point where I wonder, is she safe with the baby?
You know, a lot of people start to have those types of concerns. And what I'm hearing from you both is that, Jada, you just haven't felt like yourself lately. Difficulties with sleep, a lot of self-doubt, a low mood. It's a lot consistent with depression, but on top of that, there are these thoughts and behaviors that are actually really taking up a lot of your time. To me, they sound consistent with what we call OCD, or Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. This involves thoughts that we just simply can't get out of our heads, and rituals that we feel like we need to do, like checking the computer, checking the baby, coming down the stairs a certain type of way, cleaning. These are all called compulsions, and those are also symptoms of the illness. These thoughts or obsessions can be very distressing and often involve taboo subjects like giving someone a disease, catching a disease, or harming someone, like running someone over with a car. They're very common in people with postpartum depression. And what may surprise you is that they often involve fears of harming the baby. So, Jada, what I'm hearing in your case is that the compulsions or the behaviors that I've mentioned and the obsessive thoughts we talked about, which include throwing the baby or even touching the baby sexually, based on our discussion, I really don't hear any psychotic symptoms that make me worry about your safety. You don't hear any voices. You don't have any delusional beliefs about the baby that are distressing to you. These are fears, things that you don't want to do, but you worry about doing. This is very consistent with OCD, and there's very little risk of actually doing any of the things that you fear.
It's a huge relief to hear you say that there's a name for these thoughts that I'm having, but I don't see how I'm ever going to get rid of them. I can't keep going on like this.
I know this has been really hard for you both, but we have good treatments for OCD, and we can really get started with treatment now that we know what we're dealing with. The two treatments that work the best are medication, antidepressants, typically at higher doses than we use for regular depression, and a special type of psychotherapy called ERP. The important thing to understand is that although the rituals make you feel better in the short term, they actually reinforce the thoughts and make them stronger. It's like an itch that you always want to scratch. So that knowing that this feeling only lasts for a minute or so, we can then practice extinguishing. ERP psychotherapy is about practicing not giving in to these scary thoughts. So you can start to walk downstairs with your baby instead of scooching down the stairs. We kind of have to retrain your brain to understand that nothing bad will happen, so these thoughts start quieting down. The treatment is challenging, but we have many studies that show that it works quite well. Do you think that you'd be willing to start medication and try exposure and prevention therapy?